Do you ever wake up feeling like you don't want to do anything or sit at work or school just waiting for the day to end? Maybe you wish you could be as motivated as those people on social media who always seem to achieve your goals. But there's a simple idea that can make you feel motivated every day. And it's not just about being grateful or waking up early. This idea is real, and successful people like millionaires, athletes, and high achievers have been using it for years to reach their goals. Let me share with you an inspiring story to explain what it is. This is John. John is a young man, just like 18 years old, and he's in his final year of high school. John has faced many challenges in his life. He lived with his father and a little sister after his mother died of cancer when he was very young. His father had to work hard to support the family, so John didn't get to see him much. John felt drawn to older kids at school because he saw them as father figures. But these kids weren't a good influence. They pressured John to steal and skip school to party with them. John's life was starting to go downhill. One night after a party, John came home to find police cars in a driveway. His house had been broken into, and his father had been killed while trying to protect the family. John was devastated. It felt like a nightmare. In just a few hours, John found himself in charge at home with no family to help. He didn't have much money and had to find a way to take care of himself and his little sister, or they'd be without a home or food. John had to leave school and work full-time at the local mechanic shop where he used to work part-time. His days were spent cleaning car parts and floors and coming home to buy cheap food for his sister, help with homework, clean, and pay bills. It was a lot for a young guy like him, and after a few months, money started running out, making it hard to even buy food. Trying to get a second job didn't work because nobody wanted to hire someone who seemed poor, unskilled, and didn't finish high school. Things were getting tough for John. He cared deeply for his sister and wanted her to have a good life, but he felt lost and alone. One day he gathered the courage to ask his boss for more money, but instead his boss offered him a chance to be a mechanic since one had just quit. Surprised by John's skills, the boss suggested he try out for the job. John accepted the challenge, knowing it meant better pay and had a chance to secure the future. With just 3 weeks to prepare, John devoted himself to learning everything about car repair from a thick book his boss gave him. He read it over and over, imagining himself fixing engines and solving problems. Despite not having real car parts to practice on, he paid close attention to the ones he cleaned at work. Winning this job meant survival for him and his sister, so he gave everything he had. He would focus on how the metal felt in his hand, examining every groove and angle. He'd think about how all the parts fit together. When John felt tired or couldn't work anymore, he'd look at the empty cupboards and his house almost no food there. Feeling the cold air because he couldn't afford heating. But most importantly, he'd look at his hungry, confused little sister, who still couldn't understand that both her mother and father were gone. Such hardship is not meant for a child. John had no choice. For the next 3 weeks, he barely slept, ate, or drank. All he did was work. Finally, the competition day arrived. John walked into the store and saw the other 3 mechanics, each with their own tools, towels, and cars, looking very professional. "Hey kid, how are you feeling?" the boss said. "Yeah, I'm okay. If you need to use my tools to fix the engine, they're here for you guys. Guys, in front of you is an engine, but there's a problem with it, and all of you have the same exact problem. The first person to fix the problem and start the engine will be hired for the new job here. Does this make sense?" Everybody nodded confidently while John's heart trembled. "Okay, I'll be in my office. I'll come out when I hear an engine start. Start working right now." The 3 other mechanics began working immediately. John could hear the tools clanking against the cold, hard metal of the engine, the grunts of the other men, and see the sweat coming down from their faces, but John just looked at his engine, studying it. He remembered the sections in his book that talked about the most common engine problems, so he worked through them systematically. In the corner of his eyes, he noticed his boss staring at him. As he worked, images of his little sister popped into his head. He remembered coming home to see the cop cars, the shock and fear of his little sister's face. She was his motivation. After some time, John had fixed several basic and even some more advanced problems, but it still wouldn't start, and he couldn't figure out why. As he wiped the sweat off his head, he noticed his hand was really dirty. Like really dirty, to the point of it being a little bit strange. He glanced down at his hand resting on the engine and noticed it was on something called the fuel filter. Suddenly, a headline from the book, "Why a Clogged fuel filter will ruin your car flashed in his mind. Realization struck, the filter was clogged, causing the car not to start. John hurriedly began cleaning the filter, working as quickly as possible. He felt a smile creeping into his face, knowing that once he finished, the car would start. With each beat of his heart, the smile grew bigger. He felt like he was about to achieve the impossible. However, his hopes were dashed when he heard the other mechanic's engine start. The boss congratulated the other mechanic and asked him to come to his office. Meanwhile, John was left to clean up, his heart breaking. As he cleaned, tears welled up in his eyes. He wondered how he would provide for his sister, pay the rent, and afford heating in the winter. These thoughts raced through his mind. Hours later, after the winning mechanic signed the contract, the boss called John into the office. The boss acknowledged John's efforts, noting that he almost fixed the engine but was too slow with the fuel filter. He also mentioned that he had read about John's hardships in the newspaper and expressed sympathy. The boss then asked John if he had lied about knowing how to fix cars, to which John initially denied but then admitted to lying. The boss commended John for his boldness and ability to learn quickly, given his lack of experience. He noted that John's familiarity with car parts from cleaning them daily was a valuable skill. Despite the lie, the boss saw potential in John and praised his modesty, considering it a good trait. "Excuse me, why are we discussing this?" John asked respectfully. "I saw the other mechanics sign the contract to work here. What's left to discuss?" "You did technically lose, and I can't hire a mechanic with little experience," the boss replied. John's heart sank. "But I'm here to offer you something different," the boss continued. "I want you to be my assistant and learn from me. You've shown a remarkable talent for learning about cars quickly, and your strong work ethic, especially given your family situation, is commendable. But you need guidance." "What does this mean?" John asked. "I can't pay you a full mechanic's salary, but I'll give you a raise to help with your family's needs. Just basics like food and heating, and as you become more skilled, I'll pay you more. There's one condition: you can never lie to me again." "I agree. I'll never lie again. I'll work hard and do whatever you ask," John promised eagerly. "Great, show up every day at 6 a.m. ready to work hard," the boss concluded. From then on, John became obsessed with cars. When he wasn't caring for his sister, he was reading books about cars, talking to other mechanics, and attending car conventions. This passion gave him and his sister a real chance at a better life. Within a year, John became one of the most skilled mechanics in the city, outperforming even senior mechanics. This experience mirrored the story of Hernan Kortz in 1519, who burned his boats upon arriving at an island to ensure his men were committed to the mission. John, too, was forced into a sink-or-swim situation where providing for his family was his only option. This burn-the-boats mentality can be crucial for some to succeed, pushing them to discover new skills and inner drive they never knew they had. If you're considering starting your own business or achieving a challenging goal, adopting a similar mindset might be necessary. This approach isn't for everyone, and it requires setting realistic goals and being cautious. But for some, it's the key to unlocking their full potential. If you want more inspiration to reach your goals, click the video on the screen now. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.